Today, the FDA just cleared an EEG-guided version of TMS for PTSD, and it may change how we personalize brain stimulation. A patient says they have tried 2 antidepressants and trauma therapy. Still symptomatic. You consider TMS, but standard TMS uses the same settings for everyone. What if you could measure their brain activity first and customize the treatment specifically to them? That is the question behind a recent FDA clearance that has psychiatrists asking, could personalized brain mapping actually improve TMS outcomes? In mid-2026, Wave Neuroscience received FDA 510(k) clearance for its EEG-guided TMS platform, commonly called MeRT, cleared specifically for PTSD. The technology uses a 14-lead quantitative EEG to identify each patient's individual alpha frequency peak, then customizes the TMS stimulation frequency to that individual's brain pattern. This is the first FDA-cleared TMS device that uses EEG data to guide treatment parameters for PTSD. Here is the key difference between standard TMS and EEG-guided TMS. Standard TMS uses fixed stimulation frequencies, typically 10 Hz or 20 Hz, applied the same way to every patient. The targeting is standard, the frequency is standard, the dose is standard. It is effective for many patients, but it is not personalized. EEG-guided TMS takes a different approach. First, a 14-lead EEG records the patient's brainwave activity. Software analyzes the data and identifies the patient's individual alpha frequency peak, typically in the 8 to 12 Hz range. Then the TMS frequency is customized to match that individual pattern rather than using a one-size-fits-all setting. Think of it like the difference between giving every patient the same antibiotic dose versus measuring drug levels first and adjusting for each person. One approach works for many. The other tries to optimize for the individual. Why might this matter for PTSD specifically? PTSD is associated with altered brainwave patterns, particularly in the alpha band and in default mode network connectivity. The theory is that targeting the patient's individual alpha frequency may better engage the neural circuits involved in PTSD symptoms. The evidence is emerging. A 2024 retrospective chart review of active duty service members treated with alpha frequency, rTMS, showed a 37% average reduction in PTSD checklist scores, with the average score dropping from 42.9 to below the clinical threshold of 33. But this was not a randomized controlled trial. It was a chart review, and there is no head-to-head comparison with standard TMS. The key point: FDA clearance does not prove that EEG-guided TMS is superior to standard TMS. It proves that the device is substantially equivalent to the predicate device in terms of safety. The comparative effectiveness question is still open. Let us step back and look at the current PTSD treatment landscape. First-line treatments are trauma-focused psychotherapy, like prolonged exposure or cognitive processing therapy, and SSRIs or SNRIs. Many patients remain symptomatic after these interventions. There is a genuine unmet need. Standard TMS is used off-label for PTSD, but it is not FDA cleared for PTSD. The new clearance gives EEG-guided TMS an official PTSD indication, a meaningful regulatory milestone. The broader question is whether personalization will actually improve outcomes. The concept is scientifically plausible. If identifying each patient's individual alpha frequency leads to better targeting and frequency selection, that could mean higher response rates. But we need head-to-head trials and long-term data to know whether the added EEG step actually translates to better results. This is where clinicians and patients should maintain appropriate skepticism. FDA clearance is significant. It is not the same as proof of superiority. This story fits into a much larger trend in psychiatry, the movement toward precision medicine. Instead of trial-and-error treatment selection, try one medication. If it fails, try another. Repeat precision psychiatry aims to use biomarkers, brain activity measures, and genetic data to guide treatment choice from the start. EEG-guided TMS is one example of biomarker-guided neuromodulation. Other efforts include genetic testing for antidepressant metabolism, neuroimaging biomarkers for treatment selection, and digital phenotyping. The field is moving toward measuring before prescribing, not guessing and adjusting. Whether EEG-guided TMS ultimately proves superior to standard TMS remains to be seen. But the clearance is a signal that psychiatry is taking the personalization concept seriously at the regulatory level. To summarize, the FDA cleared the first EEG-guided TMS device for PTSD, a significant regulatory milestone and a precision psychiatry story. The personalization concept is scientifically grounded, but more outcome data is still needed. Is EEG-guided TMS the future of PTSD treatment, or do we need more evidence before calling it a breakthrough? That is a question the field will answer in the coming years. For questions or episode ideas, drop them below and subscribe for more psychopharmacology breakdowns. Educational purposes only, not a substitute for clinical judgment.